position, saying it's equal. And I guess, David, it's your plan from earlier. The black king is a bit too out in the open.
Yeah, with such a weak king, it's going to be hard to play for a win. Otherwise, Firouzja could push his c-pawn. But it looks like that's playing with fire. It looks like you're really living life on the edge. I don't actually see the checkmate, I've got to admit, Robert, after pawn to c2, trying to deflect the white queen away from the defense of her bishop. But Alireza, under 20 seconds now, surely he cannot take that risk. The professional approach, the recommended approach, would be to retreat the king, repeat once, and then decide. But he's pushing. He's allowing Magnus to go for mate, and Magnus has blundered.
Oh, and Magnus missed this simple, quiet pawn move. The black king is safe. There's no bishop check because of the knight, and the bishop will be hanging if the queen tries to stop the c-pawn, but he can't even do that because the only square is covered by the black queen. It's completely winning for Firouzja now.
Wow, don't try this at home. The black king is literally living life on the edge, but Magnus can't checkmate it. He's not in time. There's nothing to do. Black makes a new queen. 2 queens are better than 1. This is going to be a win for Alireza. It was a perfect game until this one moment, and Magnus finally reacts, shakes his head. He knows this is gone. One mistake, and
he resigned.
Really playing so well today, Alireza. This is alpha Alireza for sure. The question mark attached to Magnus's move. This was the only way to keep the D pawn intact, but there we go. Blue arrow again. Push him, baby. Pawn to G4. White's passed pawns here are going to win this game. He starts that journey, Robert. He's so close now, Alireza. You can see him bobbing up and down on the camera. The momentum is all on his side. He's in that flow state. Pawn to G5, keep pushing, and it looks winning for White now.
Where's Yasser Sarah? And when you need him, push him, baby. Let's go and get a new queen. He first steps back with the knight, and I'm wondering, I thought Black would have tried to kick the rook out of there. Instead, he gives up the D5 pawn. Well, it could be captured with check, but why not take with the knight? The E4 knight is loose. David, this is getting out of control for Magnus Carlsen.
Out of control. His only hope is the clock. It's 17 seconds against 40 seconds. There aren't that many pawns remaining. So if Magnus can somehow sacrifice the black knight for all his pawns, he can draw. But knight c3, a winning move, Robert. Double attack. Magnus.
And you saw Magnus. He just flew back in his... we saw Alireza give away a pawn. Now pawn takes e3 is the only move, and that makes sense because a5 is loose, hard to defend, and at some point you need to free up your rook to go after the white pawn on b2. So f takes e3, that's step 1. That's not what Alireza was calculating. It was where to put the rook. Instead of going passive, he gets active. But David, what would you estimate White's winning chances at? Because you are a pawn ahead.
Yeah, you are a pawn ahead. You also have a really active king, but Magnus's kingside pawns, the pawns on g5 and h2, are so susceptible to attacks from the black rook that it might be difficult. And also, having a passed pawn is going to be great. White's a3 pawn after capturing an a5, most likely a runner. But rook's pawns are the worst of the bunch when it comes to pushing. You can only support it from one side with the white king, but it's an eternity away. The white king's going to have to commit fully to that side, and suddenly Firouzja will get counterplay on the other flank. It's difficult here. I would say it's kind of 50-50. White is 50% going to win, 50% chance it ends in a draw. Magnus, though, again, kind of a shake of the head, and he goes back, goes passive. Maybe a good practical choice, Robert. He at least keeps the tension as Firouzja gets under 20 seconds.
And we have to note that 2 seconds are added to a player's time after every single turn. That's the increment. So not giving Alireza easy choices. Here comes the black king. White could actually get in trouble in this game if black scoops up the king side. But here comes the white king. You can actually bring your rook after defending this pawn on b2. So h4 first. That makes sense to me to defend the g-pawn. And of course, Magnus finds it.
Wow, Magnus finds this move. It looks like it just makes the pawn more vulnerable, closer to the black king in the firing line. But nope, you kick the black rook first, and rook to d4 is coming next no matter what, Robert. Yeah, I said 50-50. I think this is growing in Magnus's favor. The evaluation bar agrees. Rook to d4, establish that control. King and pawn endings. White is clearly winning the race with the b pawn, a real sprinter. This is just a masterclass. I thought it was fizzling out. But that maneuver with the white king going back in order to go forward, so classy. And okay, rook to d7. He's really asking questions. Firouzja down to 2 seconds, Robert. Oof, this is really living life on the edge. But now, finally, control and the b-pawn runs.
And look at that. He gained a tempo because he brought the black king back to h5. And here, he can scoop up the pawn, move the rook out the way, and then run these two passed pawns on the queen side. Magnus Carlsen, he's done everything right in this game. This is just an easy win for a player of his stature. Push your B pawn, give up the G pawn, and keep going. It's not about pawn quantity, it's about the quality.
Yeah, it's about the quality. Black has precisely 0 passed pawns right now. Look at the white rook controlling the G5 pawn, shepherding the white queenside pawns forward. Firouzja desperately trying to create a passed pawn of his own. But I'm expecting that special move en passant, as if the pawn had just moved 1 square. Magnus surely knows about that rule, won't have forgotten about it. What are you thinking about Magnus? There we go. He captures, and the A and B pawns run together. They say 1 pawn runs faster than 2, but here, those 2 on the queenside, Robert, way too far down the board.
That's right. B7 comes, and then rook c8 shuts down the access of the black rook along the 8th rank, and the B pawn promotes. Magnus Carlsen, he wins on time, but he was winning on the board. And look... No, because the plan is this. I know that looks ridiculous because of rook moving on a diagonal, but if this rook can sit on g2, white will not be able to take it, and that may freeze Alireza's pieces in place. David, does this remind you of the Champions Chess Tour finals from a season ago, where I think Magnus was playing against Wesley So? He had a very similar structure. In fact, he had a winning position in that game. So this pawn structure here, with that nasty pawn on h3, it can create a wedge, and it can hurt your opponent, as Magnus has proven over the years.
Yeah, I remember growing up watching these rapid games where Kasparov in, I think, 1994 kept in the Sicilian Idol, getting a pawn to h3 and checkmating the opponent. Now, modern kind of knowledge, modern wisdom shows that pawns on that square in endgames are also a huge trump up the sleeve for later. Has Magnus slipped up though? Bishop to e2.
Yes, wow, look at his face. Look at that reaction, David. He did not see the retreating move coming.
Oh my gosh, I didn't see it coming, I must admit. I thought Black's plan, it was so straightforward, so simple. He should have got his king out of the firing line, off the d-file pin, and wow! Magnus agreed to draw.
So he agreed to lose the match. I mean, you can lose this game. It's the same as the draw. David, are you surprised that he wouldn't even fight? I know White objectively has...